we'd like to move on to the next session here, and it's called Trends, Exploiting the Trends and Tethers of Transitional Education. And I would like to call on stage Mr. Ismat Abu Shihab. He's the Director of MENA Regional Office, Dubai, of University of Bradford. Let's welcome him with a big round of applause. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gents. Today's discussion outlines my initial thoughts about the role of transnational education and internationalization, and the role of universities in a modern world in reaching students where education needed. You will be surprised to know that there are over 100 million students worldwide. The majority of them are mainly looking for exposure to the international market. The 100 million students worth about 1.5 trillion US dollar, and it's growing by around 6% annual rate. The world market for research worth another 1.5 trillion US dollars, and it's growing exactly at the same rate. There are 40,000 universities around the world, including over 1,000 universities each in Brazil, Argentina, and Indonesia. Emerging middle classes in developing countries are thirsty for the advantages of a university education. All the countries want the economic drive of a successful university sector. TNA is a broad definition and is defined differently between one university to another. But the aim of TNA provision is to reach students that we cannot attract and they cannot come to our campuses. But in the case of the University of Bradford, we have a huge TNA provision. And as part of globalization, we should reach students where education needed and provide teaching opportunities. In return, universities would benefit from transitional education and transitional provisions by internationalize its curriculum and by giving the international exposure to students to work in international market. So for the University of Bradford, we have around over 15,000 students. 20% of our students are international from more than 130 different countries. 61% PMA of a UK domicile, which means that the city of Bradford is one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the UK. We have over 6,000 students are studying for the University of Bradford degree outside the UK. So we have a huge TNA provision. We have 5 faculties, including a world-class Faculty of Management and Law. We have the Faculty of Social Sciences, Engineering and Informatics, Life Sciences, and Health Studies. We have over almost 100 study placement internationally. And when we talk about student mobility, it's purely in our terminology. I mean, the student mobility for a UK-based campuses are different from campuses are within the UAE. So for us, student mobility is for us, it's given about the exposure to students in the UK to have an international prospectus in the method of mobility. So for us, is to have our students to go out. But we're here in the UAE, it's about encouraging students from all over the world and in countries like India, countries in Africa, Malaysia, to come and study for a UK qualification in the UAE. So for us, is to have our students to go out because it's easier due to the visa restrictions. We're here in the UAE, it's about attracting students to study for a UK qualification. So you can see as part of our knowledge transfer, it's part of our TNA. And we have a science bridging in China, and we have been recently been awarded the Digital Health Enterprise Zone. As part of our TNA, we have 2 mega hubs around the world, including the Dubai operation, and we have another hub in China, Beijing. But TNA is different, as I said, between universities. There are TNAs where you work with a partner or you work without having a partner. And the University of Bradford model in Dubai is about flying faculty to teach in. What I've done here, I just put a shadow on the type of TNA provisions and the TNA way of working with overseas partners around the world. So you would see here that I put, for example, student exchange. We have the recruitment pathways. So we work with the China, Heilongjiang. We have the INSEE UK, which is the Northern Consortium Universities, and it's owned by 10 universities in the UK. I put here the TNA, which could be working as dual or joint masters. So our Faculty of Management and Law, as I say, it's a world-leading business school. We are triple international accredited by AACSP, AMBA, and EQUIS. And when I say dual masters or joint PhD, one of the requirements for us is to work with exactly the same level or an institution that have some international accreditations. Sorry. Yeah, it's okay. Sorry. We have a knowledge, research and knowledge transfer. Again, it's the world investing about $1.5 trillion in research, and we work with some universities in India. We work with the Science Bridges program in China. We have the Newton Fund in China and the Newton Fund in India. So Bradford is a research-focused and international active university, and our aim is to position ourselves to be the technological university of the North. The student exchange is part of TNA. We have visiting students, and we have free discount where we work with a world-leading universities where we have some kind of student exchange and visiting students. I keep just here because the terminologies are quite different, again, between universities, and it's tricky. There is a very fine line between how you define TNA. There are you have recognition, articulation, agreements. And again, it is a very fine line, not the majority. You have to go through deeply into every single one of them to identify the TNA provision you are after. But I've outlined here a few of them, like recognition, articulation, and dual awards. This is our internationalization strategy, and these are the elements that we have put for our internationalization. So the internationalization for the University of Bradford, or at Bradford, internationalization is for us being internationally involved and being internationally visible. It's not just about international student recruitment or franchise our programs. It's something much richer. And you can see that the TNA is one of the main elements in our internationalization strategy. What does it mean? I mean, why institutions, or why the University of Bradford go and have a strategy on internationalization? Basically, and the main objective will be to grow student numbers and to produce global graduates who can have the exposure to the world market, to grow international research collaborations, and as I say, to be internationally visible. The role of the transitional education, which makes education available outside Bradford. So we have an operation here in Dubai, and it was established since 2009. Despite the fact it's owned 100% by the University of Bradford, we still have stakeholders. So Bradford is one of the universities that has an agreement or an MOU with Dubai Health Authority. So we do offer 4 courses here in the UAE, including the Executive MBA, the Masters in Health Management, Nursing, and a top-up degree for diploma holders in nursing. But also the role of TNA at Bradford is to engage different stakeholders and companies. And finally, the challenges of the transnational education. Quality assurance. In the last 2 years, QA, which is the Quality Assurance Authority, in partner with the Knowledge and Human Development Authority here in Dubai, they came to evaluate all the TNA provision coming from the UK. And they put basically, you have to, as an institution, to take into consideration the quality education. You cannot deliver something which is different from what you deliver back in home campus. Ensuring sustainability and financial, so it has to be financially viable to your campus, and knowing when to exist. All the transitional education provisions, if you work with a partner, you have to think about an exit point. It's not something that you can take for granted. And finally, you need to recognize it's different from the campus delivery. It's not exactly the same. You don't have exactly the same services as you have back in the UK. You are working remotely with the main campus, but also need to ensure that it's embedded in the university system and not treated as a separate. So you have to have all the processes, admission processes, recruitments, support to alumni, as you are having back in the UK. But the world is big enough to have many TNAs, and TNAs, unless the institutions having the appetite to take it to another level, still is not being utilized properly. So thank you very much. Bye.
I would like you to join us back on the stage, please. I request Mr. Raghav to give away this memento to Mr. Ismat. Ismat Abu Shihab from University of Bradford. Thank you, sir.